Hello, everyone. Welcome back into our fantasy football podcast. We are the Football Fetishists. We're just three guys with fetishes for foot.
Goddamn right we are.
Football, yeah, fetishes.
I love foot.
Although, can I just say our
Balls.
last foot and balls? Like you just want to combine them?
No, one word.
I'm just saying our last three bets have had something to do with feet, right? Like
Yes.
2 weeks ago we had the socks.
Speaking of which, what's
Absolutely
our
disgusting.
what's our bet this week, Dan?
Well, I mean, 2 weeks ago we had the sock strainer, then last week we had the boot chug, and now this week we have a chicken foot. And I have some news, is that this is the first time I've lost a bet.
Oh, ayo.
But can I just say, like, of all the bets I could have lost, like,
Oh, can it?
hey, I've always wanted to eat a chicken foot, guys.
Yeah, that's why I'm pissed off over here. I mean, I'm getting my nuts burned. I'm getting my nipples clamped. I'm getting all this, and well, you just have to eat food that you want to eat.
I got some authentic
Just
Asian
think of how
cuisine.
nasty chicken feet actually are when they're in that farm, like stepping in shit.
Hey
And...
man, chickens are just nasty in general,
Yeah.
and I eat chickens.
Let's see it.
All
Let's
right, all right.
it.
So I'm gonna eat this chicken foot. You
got
guys can talk about
Bones and all.
Bones and
He's got
all.
bones and
Honestly,
all.
this smells delicious. Like, you got me some nice chicken
I actually
foot here.
did.
Like,
It's a nice dim sum dish from TNT
it's
Market.
got some nice teriyaki smell. Okay, it
TNT
feels.
Market.
Oh my
Sponsored
god.
by TNT.
I mean, now that I'm looking
looks
at
pretty
this,
gnarly though.
how many chicken feet did you get me? Like,
You just came in there. Yeah, get in there, Daniel. Mmm.
you know, it's very bony. If you okay, that is a little gross. If you don't,
You gotta suck the skin off the fingers.
This can take me a while,
You guys
guys.
are shaking.
I'm always shaking. That's the way I'm in person.
He's spitting out the bones.
You gotta eat the
You're
semen.
eating the bones. I'm
I know,
not
it's
dying on
just
this
what
podcast.
you
You gotta eat the tendons in there though. Only the bones left.
There's just so many bones. It's like bones. Of course, it's a fucking foot.
How's it taste though? It's pretty good,
You're
eh?
eating the bones, little toes in your mouth.
Kind of teriyaki-y, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it looks disgusting. If I don't look at it, it's
Look
not bad.
at it.
Is that part of the punishment? I have a... Fuck. There's so many bones in my mouth right now.
Suck those
So, like,
fingers
I thought the
clean.
punishment was I had to eat one chicken foot. There's like 6 in here.
Suck those fingers clean,
This
bro.
is great.
I can eat one, and I can just eat over the podcast. I don't want to keep you guys sitting
Okay,
here.
yeah.
Alright,
Let's keep it going.
Sounds good to me.
I will finish one, though.
Great.
Teriyaki.
You gotta eat the bones too, bud.
But although I must say, I am in
I'm
last
kidding.
in the other one, so if you guys really want to hear me in pain, our next week's bet, the loser has to do all 5 of our first punishments, and I'm currently in last, so...
And so if you're just catching up with us now, all those punishments include eating a habanero pepper, a glob of wasabi, nipple clamps with clothespins, which is more painful than you think if you get if you don't get too much of the meat.
A good old slap in the face.
Good old slap in the face.
Oh wait, we're doing that too? The slaps in there?
Yeah, there's a
Oh,
slap
yeah.
in
Oh,
there.
and the
shit.
big one,
And the
Tiger Bomb.
The Tiger Bomb
Tiger
on the
Bomb
nuts.
on the nut
My
sack.
personal favorite. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that one.
All right, I'm down 1.
All right, let's
I'll
take
eat the
the
other
other
5.
one
I'll
then.
sorry,
Good
I'll
job,
eat the
Daniel.
other 5 while we're going. Like, I mean, it
Good
tastes like
job.
teriyaki, guys. Like, nice good
Yeah.
old chicken feet. Yeah, so not a bad punishment, but I mean, George has done 5 punishments, and I guess if I lose next week, I'll be passing him, and I'll be at 6, right? Like, theoretically, mathematically, I could still have more punishments to do than
Let's
George.
be honest. Somehow I'm gonna get 8 injuries this week, and I'm gonna be losing and doing the punishments.
So an update on that: George is up on Darrian by about 30 points. Darrian's up on me by about 14. So I mean, if you're following along at home, somehow I don't know. I'm barely following along. I'm in the pool.
They
So
really cared.
We wrote all our teams down, and I've been personally keeping track.
our tens of listeners are somehow keeping track of our league. But okay, let's get on with the podcast. We got a lot of matchups to break down. So just like the last couple of weeks, we're gonna try to go through every matchup. If we have to skip some, we have to skip some. But I'm gonna start off because I kind of ordered them in order of actual NFL relevance. So like actual like playoffs in terms of which games are make or break for making the playoffs. So I want to start here with Seahawks at Cowboys. Both teams are 8-6. Both teams are playing for their lives here in the NFC. If either team loses, they are eliminated. So to me, the data indicates that Seattle will get behind early because Russell Wilson has to play the first 3 quarters, and Seattle has been brutal in the first 3 quarters. But I'm going against the numbers on this one. I think they got embarrassed badly against the Rams last week, and I think that they might come out of the gate firing. What do you guys feel about this game? Who do you have locked and loaded?
Well, first of all, I think it's just kind of a tough game to predict on what's going to happen because we don't know if the Seahawks are going to be resilient like they often are, or if they're just really imploding because it was brutal on the sidelines last week, and so it's just tough to know which way we're going to go. But I do think there are a decent amount of 100%ers this week. I think Russell Wilson, obviously locked and loaded. Jimmy Graham, Zeke coming back, and Dez I put in there. And I also put Doug Baldwin in despite his poor performance last week. You guys disagree with any of those?
I mean, yeah, I agree with all of them. Jimmy Graham, you might be a little hesitant to start, but I agree he should be locked.
It's again looking through the tight ends and seeing that if you have someone, the streaming options aren't that great, and I just can't imagine that you're picking someone up and playing him over Jimmy Graham.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Graham's 100% locked and loaded, and for the exact reason, the depth on the tight end position this year has not been there. And in terms of Doug Baldwin, he's had a pretty low-key couple weeks. But yeah, if he's on your roster, I don't see any way how you put him on the bench.
And especially regarding the tight ends, I mean, in my league, Jared Cook's already been picked up, so there's really no one available to pick up. So that's the issue that I'm dealing with.
Yeah. I hate Jared Cook. Although who do you think has more fantasy points on the last 2 weeks, Jimmy Graham or Jordan Reed, who hasn't played? It's Jordan Reed. Jimmy Graham has negative -1 yard in the last 2 weeks, so I mean,
it's a fair point.
It's a fair point.
It's a fair point.
I still think you got to start him. His odds of getting in the end zone are pretty high.
And so, who are your maker breaks?
Mike Davis. How do you feel about Mike Davis? Because I'm a little concerned.
Why are you concerned?
So, like, his workload was essentially nothing in the second half against the Rams. Because
why was that, Dan?
Well, was he injured?
No,
but
because
they were down. It's because they're down so much.
They're down 40-0.
Yeah, he wasn't injured. They just stopped playing because they're down. Like what, 40-0, 34-0?
It's 34-0, then 41-0.
And yeah, I get it. They went to the pass back in J.D. McKissick, but I also think there is the narrative where they could be down early here. You know, Zeke's back. It is still the Seahawks who have to play the first half. You know, like they might get down early. I do worry about McKissick getting in there more with Mike Davis. I think Mike Davis is the better back. His yards per carry support that, but J.D. McKissick in the pass down, I do worry a bit about Mike Davis in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't love Mike Davis, but I think that you can, if you look at the last 3 weeks, he went 16 carries, 15 carries, and then last week he just went down to 6. Mm-hmm. I think you can pretty safely assume that he's going to go back up more in that 15 plus carry range, just on the basis of last week the game script was just they got absolutely killed and couldn't run the ball because they were down 27 like early in the second quarter. So, I mean, I don't love him. He hasn't gone a touchdown, and their offense isn't that great, but if you're looking for a flex volume type play and you need to do it, I think you can safely think that he'll get 15 plus touches.
I think he'll be definitely heavily involved in the game script. With Elliott coming back this week, I think the Seahawks are going to try and do their best to keep him off the field and keep the Cowboys offense off the field. So they're going to have to lean on the run a bit. The Cowboys defense has been susceptible to some running backs. And when you have a mobile quarterback like Russell, it really keeps the D-line from penetrating upfield. I think Mike Davis is a safe play for around 70 to 80 yards.
To me, he just doesn't have a high ceiling because I find every time the Seahawks get within like 5 yards of the goal line, Russell Wilson seems to target Jimmy Graham. So, I mean, I think that greatly that greatly puts a downside to his touchdown potential. A guy on the other side of the ball, I was kind of surprised you had him locked and loaded, was Des Bryant, because I have no idea what to do with Des Bryant. Over the last year, his data does support that he is better with Zeke in the lineup. I think Dak is better with Zeke in the lineup, so I think that gives a boost to Des Bryant, but I mean, I don't think I could sit him. I just don't think he's necessarily locked and loaded, but I do agree you should probably start him.
You should start him, yeah.
Again, it's more like the Mike Evans type thing. If you've got Des Bryant in your fantasy championship, you're gonna play him. Might not be happy about it depending on the situation, but you're gonna play him. That's kind of how I viewed it.
Yeah, and same thing with Dak. I won't bore you with the numbers, but with Zeke in the lineup, he's much better. I think he's a riskier play, but I think I would play Dak Prescott.
Me too.
Yeah, we're in agreement there. Or?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, it depends who else you have, but I don't mind that matchup. Next is
the last potential thing is streaming Jason Witten as a potential guy. That's the last kind of debate here.
KJ Wright, more than likely will be back for this game as he sat out last game with a concussion, so he would be the guy covering him, which is a tough matchup for any tight end. He's a very good cover linebacker.
I just don't think you can trust him. I think I don't know. I wouldn't touch Jason Witten personally, but it depends on your options, depends on who's out there. I think you can do worse.
Yeah.
But I'm not excited to play Jason Witten.
Sort of similar feel. I mean, there's no way you're excited about it, but the issue is that there's very few guys that you're excited to play for if you're streaming tight ends. He's caught 2 touchdowns the last 3 games. Last week he had 47 yards, but he's right. It's a tough matchup. I don't know. I mean,
and Dak will be better, so I don't know. It's not terrible.
Yeah,
it's not terrible. The next game I've got is Falcons at Saints. So the Falcons are 9-5 and the Saints are 10-4. This is a huge divisional game. The NFC South is very interesting to me with the Falcons, the Saints, and the Pack.
Probably the
Panthers.
Game of the week.
To me, yeah, I think it will be. I mean, not fantasy-wise, it's not that hard to pick. I think this game's gonna be a great game. If you know how this game's gonna go, please let me know because I have no idea how to let this go, or how this game's gonna go in terms of game script. So I mean, in that case, you just have to kind of lock and load your studs. On the Falcons side of the ball, I've got Devontae Freeman locked and loaded. I mean, pretty much Julio. I couldn't imagine sitting Julio. I don't want to necessarily.
No.
Yeah. Okay, so Devontae Freeman and Julio, and then on the other side, Kamara, Ingram, and Thomas.
So just because you don't have Matt Ryan locked and loaded?
I do not.
Okay.
I mean, Matt Ryan. I'm sitting here eating these chicken things because Matt Ryan couldn't outscore Tom Brady in a week where Tom Brady wasn't great. Matt Ryan has, like you said a couple weeks ago, has not hit 20 fantasy points all season long. He's not an upside play. And I think that Marshawn Lattimore greatly lowers Julio's upside, just like he did a couple weeks ago. I mean, Julio still got quite a bit of yards in that game. I think he had like 90. But I don't see Matt Ryan as an upside play just as he hasn't been an upside play all season long.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely,
fair.
I agree. And I think New Orleans defense has come a long way this year, and they've been playing pretty well lately. And Lattimore's the central reason behind that, so that's definitely a downgrade for Matt Ryan.
Drew Brees is as close to lock and loaded as you can be, I think, because I love him at home here in this matchup. I think he's played well against Tampa Bay pretty much in the past. Last time I said to sit him, or sorry, Atlanta, sorry, Red Bird. Like, sorry, not Bird, Buccaneers. Yeah, sorry, just a red team in general. I got it mixed up.
No worries.
Sorry, he's played historically well against the Falcons in general, like you said a couple weeks ago, and I think at home he's a different human than he is on the road. I think in a big game, I think Drew Brees is going to show up.
Yeah, I think you have to start him.
Absolutely.
Do you want to talk about Sanu at all?
He's the only other guy
On the cusp. He's on the cusp. Last week he didn't show up as well as I would have hoped. This is also kind of a plus matchup in terms of, Lattimore will be drawn to Julio, so the targets will need to get spread around a bit. I would just manage expectations. I feel like this won't be as high of a scoring game as people might think.
Like crazy things could happen. It could be high scoring or low scoring. But I don't think there's anything in the middle. He's had at least 5 targets in 4 straight games. So, I mean, I think his floor is rising a little bit. He's still a bit of a touchdown-dependent kind of guy, but with that kind of offense...
You never know. He might throw in that wildcat and throw a touchdown for you.
Yeah, he's...
Throws a nicer deep ball than Matt Ryan, I'd say.
How many touchdowns did Julio have? Like 4? And then a quarter of them have been thrown by Mohamed Sanu? Like, that's pretty wild. That's why I don't like Matt Ryan.
I guess... I don't like playing Sanu this week. I think you say his floor is rising, but he caught 23 yards last week
in the championship
he's
round.
Touchdown dependent.
In the championship round, I think you could go scoop someone up off the waiver wire that we're probably going to talk about in a bit.
And it's like, especially for a guy that's touchdown dependent, it's like when he gets a touchdown, he's still like only getting say anywhere from 9 to 14 points. It's not like he's going 120 yards in a touchdown. So I don't know. I think he's not going to win you your league, but he could lose it for you with another 20 yard outing.
That's absolutely true. I wouldn't start him. I just think his floor is rising a little bit, and I think you can do better on the waiver wire from a few guys. 2 of them from the same team, but we'll get there when we get there. The next game I've got here is Georgia's Rams at the Tennessee Titans. Okay, so I kind of wrote out the game script for each of my games because a lot of my decisions came down to what I think is going to happen in the game script, which, hey, I'm probably completely wrong, but just in my opinion, I can see that the Rams can clinch their division with the win here. This is a must-win for the Titans in order for them to solidify their wild card spot in the AFC. I think the Titans are not a legit playoff team, as 5 of their 8 wins have come against bad to terrible teams.
Oh, yeah, they're garbage.
Like, they've beaten the Texans with Savage. They've beaten the Colts twice. They've beaten the Bengals and the Browns. They beat the Ravens while the Ravens' offense wasn't quite together yet. And, I mean, sure, they beat the Seahawks and the Jaguars, but to me, they're not a legitimate playoff team. So I see the Rams as winning this game handedly on the back of Todd Gurley. I think he runs down the clock in the second half after they get an early lead. And probably a game where Jared Goff doesn't have to throw a whole lot. So in my locked and loadeds here, I've got Todd Gurley, I've got the Rams defense, I've got Delaney Walker and Robert Woods with a question mark. I like Robert Woods in this game. I kind of want to lock and load him. I think I'm going to.
I've definitely got Robert Woods locked and loaded because even last week you saw like the game script completely said like I think it was like 100 and I don't want to get the number wrong, but it was low hundreds for the yards for Jared Goff.
Yeah.
And yet he's
like
still
170. I think,
and yet he still threw like a third of those yards and a touchdown to Robert Woods.
Yeah.
So I mean, just looking at that, and that's in his first game back. So if he's over 200 yards, you got to think that the share is going to go to Woods. I think he's a really safe start.
I think he's a safe. He's got that high floor. He's got a high ceiling as well. He's the go-to target there. He's a must play.
Clear number 1 in that offense. And Goff, to me, his fantasy points have almost perfectly mirrored how good a defense is. I made that point a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
And Tennessee has not been terrible against the pass lately. And they are, I think, 17th on the season, and they've been pretty much at par for the course the last 6 weeks. So I think you get that exact kind of matchup with Jared Goff. I think he'll be a safe play. I don't think he'll be a high ceiling play because I think that in the second half he won't be throwing a lot. He'll be just running the ball.
I absolutely agree with that.
All right. Cooper Kupp, I would sit him. I think that Robert Woods has proven that he's the number 1 target, and I also don't think Goff will be throwing very much to spread out the ball. So I would sit both Kupp and Watkins. Do you agree with?
I think Watkins not even a consideration this week. Cup, I'm kind of leaning back and forth on. And
He would have had a decent game last week if he didn't drop that ball. He dropped like a 30-yard catch.
I think that's how wide receivers work.
I'm saying he gets the targets and he gets like quality targets every game.
That's true.
And he's had great hands all year. So if you're looking for that flex play, it's there. He's got a higher floor than I would say a higher ceiling. He's got a higher floor than this.
Definitely than over Watkins, yeah.
Yeah, Cup's very. I've kind of gone back and forth. I mean, he's easily over Sanu. I guess we'll try to. As we go forward, let's compare some Cup to some guys because Cup's one of these where I don't know where I stand on if you're starting him or not.
I would go Cup over Sanu personally. What do you? I would go Cup over Sanu.
I would do that as well. But I would also be worried about a blowout in this game. Gurley running wild first half, and then everyone's like off the board for the rest of the game.
All right. On the other side of the ball, I've got Delaney Walker locked and loaded. Does anybody want to touch one of these running backs in Tennessee?
Absolutely not.
Nope.
I
mean,
untouchable.
We all agreed Henry's the back that's looked better over the last few weeks, and then last week he got single-digit carries, didn't do much with them, and it was Murray who got 18 carries or something like that. And
I don't have it offhand, but
so I mean, it's just. What are you betting on? What are you hoping? And also, again, if we're predicting the game script going is as the Rams they get an early defensive touchdown and start killing them, then all of a sudden you've got two running backs and you're trying to start one of them where could be down 20 plus.
I'm
points.
just looking at the stats right here from San Francisco last week. A very plus matchup for both running backs. DeMarco Murray 18 carries, 59 yards, with an average of 3.3 yards a carry. Derrick Henry 7 for 19. 2.7 yards per carry.
7 for
you
19.
Can't start that type of guy in your championship weekend. You just can't.
I agree with you entirely, and I don't think the Rams have been terrible against the run lately. So like they have this season have been bad, but like lately they've been cleaning it up against the run. They've just, as a defense in general, I think have been okay. And wide receivers. Oh, sorry, what were you gonna say something?
Oh no, go ahead.
And wide receivers, I don't think you can start any of these guys. I mean, I think Rashard Matthews is the best of the bunch, but putting your trust in a wide receiver in Tennessee means you're putting your trust in Marcus Mariota, which I have done.
And I'm looking at Rashard Matthews' game log numbers right here. Last week he had 6 for 95 and a touchdown, but the week before he had 3 for 19.
Yeah.
And then the week before that he had 5 for 113 and a touchdown, but a week before that was 5 for 50. So he's kind of doing the week on, week off kind of showing up. And so if he follows that pattern, this is definitely an off week.
I don't like Rashard Matthews.
If that even means anything.
I don't like Rashard Matthews this week, but even just comparing him to Cooper Kupp, I like him over Cooper Kupp this week. I would take
Matthews over Cooper Kupp this week.
I think they're going to be down. I think that even though he's saying one on one off,
True.
I mean he did have 19 last week, but other than that, like his low is 50 yards in the past 6 games, and he's got 3 touchdowns. So
you mean in the last 6 games he's played in full?
Week 14 he had 3 for 19.
Well, because week 14 I think he played in full, and he had 19 yards.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm saying that's like the low. Other than that, like he's been putting up decent numbers. He's getting touchdowns every second game. I think he's not a great play by any means, but just comparing him to Kupp, I like him more than that.
And you're right, they will be throwing a lot.
Cup.
Yeah,
I love the Rams. They'll be losing as well.
Which I should note, I have the Rams defense locked and loaded as
Absolutely.
well.
They're looking. I mean, Aaron Donald. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Whoa, calm down there.
No, I don't calm down watching Aaron Donald.
Whoa, what are you doing?
George just jizzed on air, everybody. Like you can't see it, but
he's got this crazy look in his eyes.
Your head went back.
I'm definitely half-mast over here.
All right, moving on.
Tense in this room.
Moving on before we keep talking about the Rams and we need George to leave the room. We got the Chargers at Jets is the next one I've got. So the Chargers are 7-7, the Jets are 5-9, and the Chargers can still make the playoffs. Like I looked at the situation, like just because they lost to the Chiefs doesn't mean that they're out. And this is a must-win game for the Chargers. And I think last Saturday's game against the Chiefs left a bad taste in their mouth. Like I think the Rivers threw 3 picks. I think he'll come out trying to show his team that he could get it done in the playoffs if they were to make it. And I think they got a shot because Tennessee's got a tough schedule. So if Tennessee loses out and if Buffalo loses one of 2, then Chargers have a shot at the playoffs. And they're still one of the hottest offenses, minus last week. And to me, I think you start your Chargers and you sit your Jets. I think that's pretty simple. I mean, Hunter Henry was just placed on the IR this morning.
And so that's what do we consider Antonio Gates a good streaming option this week?
I don't hate it.
I don't
Me
think
neither.
so. I wouldn't really touch him. He hasn't shown much production. It's been tough.
I mean, that's true, but he's been
behind Hunter Henry.
He's been behind an uber talented tight end.
But like, how much does he have in the tank? Like, we haven't seen what he has. Can he play a full game?
Well, I mean, just the fact that he's even been able to still be like a little bit part of the offense while with another great tight end on the team, I think that shows that he's at least got something in the tank. And I think that if you're looking at streamers, I think this is a guy who hope to get a touchdown out of this week.
Yeah.
And just replacing a guy when in an offense that often they do pass to the tight end. I think he's a decent streaming option.
I
and then the only other guy, you said you'd sit the Jets, but I like Robbie Anderson. Last week I was saying how I didn't like him, but you talked about how Bryce Petty only throws the ball to him. And he didn't put up numbers. He definitely did not help my fantasy team last week. But he got 12 targets.
Yeah.
And I just think that based on all those stats that you talked about last week with the target share he gets with Bryce Petty, I think just looking at the 12 target number makes me believe that
he's got a safe floor. Safe floor.
Yeah. And then but also just like if 12 targets, I mean, sure, he didn't do anything with them last week, but he's a really talented guy who's going to get the ball thrown his way a lot. I think I'm starting Robbie Anderson this week.
I've got 2 pros and 2 cons on Robbie Anderson that I have written down here, which is why he's not locked and loaded. So I've got pro, 12 targets, pro, Bryce Petty's butt buddy, con, Casey Hayward, con, Bryce Petty. So Bryce Petty's on both sides of the ball. To me, the cons went out. I would sit him just because, I mean, Bryce Petty plus Casey Hayward, I think the cons are a bit higher on that side. To me, I couldn't start him. I couldn't, especially after what he put up last week with Bryce Petty, which wasn't great. I mean, yeah, Bryce Petty hyper targeted him. And to go back to your point on Antonio Gates, we have enough data on Phillip Rivers to see that he targets the tight end a lot, especially in the red zone. I think that the odds of Antonio Gates getting a touchdown is a lot higher than any other guy on the waiver wire. So if you need to stream a tight end, like just think about your touchdown potential. Antonio Gates has got pretty good odds at getting a touchdown. It's probably going to be either 20 yards and nothing or 20 yards and a touchdown. So like it's very touchdown dependent to me.
Yeah, totally. But just because while we disagree, I would say that for me, every guy that we've debated on in terms of receivers, I think Robbie Anderson's a better start than any other guy we've named.
Fair. Maybe not Rashard Matthews. Yeah, I think I'd start him over Rashard Matthews.
I'd start him over all 3 of them.
Yeah, you're right. Over
them,
Sanu? Yeah, I'd start him over Sanu.
Oh,
yeah,
and Sanu as well. Yeah,
and
all
Cup,
3 of them. Cup, he's above 3 of those guys.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's move on and see if there's more receivers we can debate.
And, I wouldn't play any of the 3-headed monster of the running backs.
Yeah, that's not even a consideration at this point.
All right, next game I've got is the Dolphins at Chiefs. So the Dolphins are 6-8, and the Chiefs are 8-6. So with the tiebreaker over the Chargers, all that Kansas City needs to do is win one of their next 2 games to clinch the AFC West. They definitely don't want to risk their division lead against the Broncos next week, who may love the chance to play spoiler against a division rival. So the Chiefs should take care of business here, or at least they should want to. And I love the idea of staying in the flames with Kareem the Dream. So who needs the middle of the fantasy season? I think Kareem's just one of those guys. I come for the first 3 in the last 3 weeks, and everything else, forget about it. So my locked and loadeds here in this game are Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, Kenyon Drake, and Jarvis Landry, who I think bounces back.
No Tyreek Hill?
I don't have him locked and loaded, but I wrote he should be started in most situations. Almost all.
I just think that if I have Tyreek Hill, the idea of sitting him and watching him return a punt and then going for an 80-yard touchdown run or catch and going for 33 points, which is a realistic possibility, and losing my fantasy playoffs over that, I would quit fantasy. So there's just on that basis, right. I'm not sitting Tyreek Hill under any circumstances.
Tyreek Hill's that home run guy, man. You gotta play him, especially in your championship. You gotta play him.
I did say it's as close as he gets to being locked and loaded. I do see a bit of a narrative because Xavier Howard's been good lately. And I also see a narrative of Kansas City getting up really early with Kareem Hunt's running touchdowns.
I'd like to talk about Xavier Howard just a little bit. He has been on fire, absolutely. That Brandon Cooks game was phenomenal. I just think Tyreek Hill's a different player than Brandon Cooks. I think he's way faster. He's stronger, like way stronger. Like you could tell by Cooks the way he runs. He gets a little bump. That's it. He can't break that contact. I think Tyreek's just so fast and strong, you can't even touch him.
He's so fast, and no woman is any match for him.
And he literally, they have so many plays designed to get him the ball. I think he's a must play.
Yeah, I can't think of a situation where I'd sit him. I'd have to see like the options.
Can we talk about Kenyon Drake again? Like, holy moly, who is this guy? RB1, eh?
He's that guy this year. The guy that you pick up in week 12 and is going to win you your league.
And I'm playing against him in my championship, and I'm very afraid. And watch over Damian. I mean, I don't think. What do you think? If Damian Williams comes back, do you think that'll matter?
I don't think it'll matter at this point. Maybe for some passing downs for a pass block.
Yeah, I agree.
But like I was watching Kenyon Drake play last week and the week before against the Patriots. Sorry. And he was doing an excellent job picking up the blitz. So
and even pass catching work.
He's awesome catching the ball out of the backfield. So I think he's taken the job. Yeah, I think he's going to be their starter next year too. Maybe a top 20 pick.
I mean, if the Dolphins want to win the football game, which that's what they should want to do.
Seems like a good idea.
It seems like a good idea. Then I think they just go with Kenyon Drake all game. But I mean, Anybody else in this matchup that I don't mind Alex Smith.
Well, I was
in
just
this
gonna
game.
do we like Alex Smith in this?
So I've got my quarterback sorted into safe and like high ceiling this week, and Alex Smith makes the safe list to me. Like I think he's your best friend if you're a favorite. I don't see a game where he has to throw a lot. I don't think the Dolphins will get up in this game, so I think he'll get that safe 12 to 18 point range if you're in a 4-point touchdown.
I think the Patriots. I think the Dolphins have been playing actually decent run defense, and we really saw in the Patriots game 2 weeks ago. Where they just absolutely shut down the Patriots' run game. So I think they will, and Kareem Hunt's a very talented guy, but he's been on and off the second half of the season. So yeah, I think they're gonna definitely stuff the run a bit, at least in the first half, and Alex Smith is gonna have to air it out a little bit.
Yeah, I have concerns about getting multiple touchdowns, but I think he's a relatively safe start and decent. I don't know.
A good start if you're the favorite. If you're not the favorite, go to the waiver wire, in my opinion. Because I got a few guys on the waiver wire.
He did put up decent numbers against the Chargers last week.
If you're not the
dominating quarterback,
if you're not the favorite, you want to reach for the guy that has the high ceiling, and Alex Smith is not your guy.
Yeah, I see him as a vanilla quarterback this week, just like he was for like the last 3 years. This week he's been a bit more like meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
Usually, but like last few years he's been like vegetables and vanilla.
Soybeans.
Yeah.
Chicken feet.
That's probably his entire diet. It's just soybeans. Yeah. All right, moving on to the Bills at the Patriots. So the Bills are 8-6, and the Patriots are 11-3. Bills are holding on to a playoff hope, and the Patriots are trying to clinch that home field advantage over in the AFC. If the Bills win out, they're guaranteed a spot in the playoffs, and the Patriots are trying to lock up the top spot, like I said a second earlier. The Patriots will be motivated to ensure they get home field advantage, and in general, Belichick hates losing, so as a divisional game, I just see this one as going to be a wild game a little bit. Like, I mean, sure, I think the Patriots will win, but I don't think it'll be as heavily Patriots side as Vegas is saying it will be. I don't know what the over-under is, but I think it's like 12 for the Patriots. I think that's way too much. Like, I think that it'll be at least a close game because divisional matchup. Locked and loaded, I've got Tom Brady, Gronkowski, Cooks, Dion Lewis, and Shady. Anybody else who you think should crack this list?
I think that's all it is. But I'd like to acknowledge the just fire hot take that you said earlier that you think Bill Belichick likes to win football games. Shit.
I said he hates to lose.
Oh,
didn't
my
I?
bad. Or
Or did I say he likes to win? I don't remember. We'll back it up.
One thing I would keep an eye on, especially in the Patriots' backfield. If Burkhead can't go, that significantly upgrades Dion Lewis.
Which is
I
true,
believe
but I
he's
think
out.
either way you're playing Dion Lewis at this point, so I don't think it changes your
So
strategy.
I'm looking at the report right here, and it says Burkhead might be back for
really?
playoffs. So
for
he's
like real playoffs.
so he's out.
Yeah.
I would definitely that massively upgrades Dion Lewis.
It might put him from an RB2 to an RB1. Like, I mean, you're playing him though. The only guy is Tyrod. That's the only decision. I think I guess if we're talking, you're putting your ceiling for safe guys, and I think if you're losing, you play him over Alex Smith for sure. I think he's not only playing to make the playoffs. He's playing for his job next year. He's playing for pride. You saw how much he hated being sat down. I just think they're going to try to let him loose. He's going to go and try to make plays with his legs. Can maybe get a rushing touchdown out of him. I like him as a play this week.
I have him in my grouping of 4 potential quarterback streams. And I keep going back and forth on whether or not he's my third favorite option, my fourth favorite option.
Can you give me your guys?
My guys, Blake Bortles, the GOAT.
Yeah.
Number 2, I had Nick Foles, and I think those are the top 2 far and away. Then I'm debating between him and Joe Flacco. And Joe Flacco has been incredible these last few weeks. I can't think off the top of my head. Who does he play? Baltimore's playing somebody not fantastic. And I don't know, I've been debating it because, to me...
Indy, on Saturday.
Indianapolis. That's why I think he's a good play, because of Indianapolis. But to me, Tyrod... It looks good on paper, right? Like, New England hasn't been that great over the entire season against the quarterback, but they've been a lot better over the last 6 weeks. So, I mean, it looks good on paper. I don't see him getting a lot of throwing yards. I think if he has a good day, it's off the back of rushing yards.
I agree.
And potentially he might get a lot of throwing yards to Shady. He could. And Charles Clay has been pretty good lately, you know? Like, so I think he is a streamable tight end.
I think Charles Clay is one of the best streamable tight ends you can get out there right now, especially with Tyrod. You know, they have that connection. And I remember last year, the last couple of games of the season, Charles Clay was absolutely phenomenal for the fantasy playoffs last year. He just tends to show up around this time of the year. And in terms of Tyrod, I think he has a monster game. This New England defense is very susceptible, especially to mobile quarterbacks. I think Tyrod makes the plays on his feet. He checks down him Shady all day, and Charles Clay might get a touchdown.
Yeah, that's right. And Charles Clay, he had 9 targets last week, and you got to remember Jordan Matthews is on IR, so that takes up that slot receiver's out of the equation. So Charles Clay could very well eat up all of those middle of the field targets, and it's a divisional matchup. Wild things happen. I think Charles Clay could be a very high ceiling play.
And
this week.
that receiver group is a very underachieving bunch.
And Calvin Benjamin might not play. Like he's reported as missing practice. I think he missed practice today. But I just saw there was a report on him on Roto World for health. So check to see if Calvin Benjamin plays. Jordan Matthews is out, so I like.
I think Darren and I are both a little higher on Tyrod. I think on our side we're thinking he's a pretty great streaming option this week.
I like him. Oh, for sure. And he was my number 3 officially yesterday when I was making these over Joe Flacco, but I don't know.
I would definitely take him over Flacco.
Yes.
And you know what? I'm kind of even leaning towards him over Foles
Over
at this
Foles?
point. Yeah.
I can't.
Let's move on. Let's get to those matchups maybe. And we'll,
absolutely. All right. Next game I've got here is the Steelers at the Texans. So the Steelers.
Should be a great game.
Is that sarcasm?
I think it might be a little one-sided.
I think so too. The Steelers are 11-3, kind of the same. I mean, they're trying to lock up the AFC as well, and they're also trying not to lose the bye to the Jaguars.
That's a very important thing. Like
they're going out. They need that.
Not only because think about the difference of the 2 seed. If they go to the 3 seed, they could be playing Baltimore potentially in the first round.
They could be playing the Chargers even. Maybe.
The Chargers, but especially think of them in Baltimore, because even if they win, going up against
anything
Baltimore
happens in
kills
those
you.
games.
And then just the difference of that, and then having to say you go through a battle with a team like Baltimore, and then next week you go into Jacksonville with that defense, like you have no desire to do that. I think they're playing for everything.
This is almost a must-win for the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially after the way they lost last week.
Yeah,
they got to come out. They have to.
And if you're ever in a must-win situation, I want to be in a must-win situation against TJ Yates, personally.
Absolutely.
So I think that's good for them. I could see them getting up by a lot early on, so I think this is a big Bell game, because Bell generally does better on the road, because Big Ben on the road doesn't throw as much. It's almost like the opponent's stadium almost makes his head hurt, so he doesn't throw as much because he can't hear himself talk in the huddle. So he just relies on Bell, because why wouldn't you? You got the number 1 running back in the world.
And definitely without Brown, I think Bell is the far and away number 1 fantasy play this week.
If you can be higher than number 1
further than Gurley and everyone.
Yeah, he's gonna do great this next coming weekend. I can't wait.
But locked and loaded, I've got Bell, Juju, Steelers defense, Ben Roethlisberger, and DeAndre Hopkins.
Yes.
Juju.
Yes, 100%
Juju was the one I wasn't 100% sure.
I think it's an easy choice.
I agree. If you look at his production, the second Antonio Brown went out last game.
He had, 114 yards?
But I also said I also thought there was a chance he'd be invisible last game, and he kind of was until Antonio Brown went down.
Exactly.
And then Antonio Brown went down, and Juju was all of a sudden
fine.
But that's why he's a locked and loaded.
That's me as well.
Antonio Brown.
And also, can we say he got like 75 of those yards on one play at the very end of the game? True. So that in itself is a little worrisome.
Okay. And I don't hate Martavis Bryant here. I think huge ceiling. Big. Yeah.
He's
sure,
getting
big
targets. They designed a red zone touchdown play just for him last week. It
was a good catch. It was a good catch,
but it was a play. The point is, it was a play designed for him in the red zone.
Yep.
And so I think Juju's a must play, and Martavis is a good play.
Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins has been doubted all season against tough matchups, and he's proven everyone wrong every week. Is there any hesitation starting DeAndre Hopkins?
No, and they're going to be losing all game as well. There's no hesitation.
You can't put him on your bench in championship week.
He got you here. Start your studs that got you here. Right?
But speaking of guys that normally get played, right there, I'm looking at Lamar Miller, and I am not playing him this week unless you are in desperation mode.
I would not play Lamar Miller this week.
He had single-digit carries last week because they got blown out. And do you expect anything different this week?
Yeah, I think TJS hurts that entire offense, so that hurts their ability to get first down, which is going to hurt Lamar Miller's production. And the fact they're down.
Alfred Blue outgained him and outtouched him last week.
And I mean, Lamar Miller, he's been a volume-based start. He hasn't been very productive. It's been his volume, and I don't expect him to get much volume at all. I think you need to sit him. I
think I think in terms of game script, they're gonna try and get him involved because you want to keep the ball out of the Pittsburgh offense's hands.
But when they're down,
what type of production is he gonna get? Especially this defense is so athletic. I really don't see him doing much.
Yeah, I agree. I think sorry, what?
No, okay. So finish your thought on that.
Sit Lamar, maybe start Martavis, depending on.
I think you probably.
I would take Martavis over who we've been talking about.
Me as well.
I think he's over Robbie Anderson.
For upside, yes, I'd say Robbie Anderson's probably safer.
Absolutely for upside.
I think those are very comparable.
If you're reaching for that chip, I'd play him over Anderson.
What about Jesse James as a streamer? His stats didn't do anything last week, but of course had the touchdown
that drop.
That
was tough.
And again, without Antonio Brown, I mean, I think there are worse plays as for streamers. I think he immediately gets a little bit of a target share in theory and potential red zone play. I don't love him.
If you look at the last 2 weeks, the week before he had his career high 97 yards, and then last week he had that touchdown robbed from him,
which cost me
which was
semifinals.
It cost me one of my semifinals too.
One of them, I made it the other.
Yeah, I won the other one, but it cost me one of my semifinals, and I was just hands on my head, being like, "What the hell is a catch?" But going back to him, I think he's a great play. Like, he's got value there for sure.
Him or Antonio Gates.
I was gonna ask that.
I would go Jesse James all day, just because I think he's gonna be on the field in general a lot more. He's got more in the tank, and I think the Antonio Brown out benefits him greatly.
I'd go Antonio Gates because I think Big Ben's far worse on the road, and he can't spread the ball out as much. So I don't see his potential for spreading out the ball with passing yards as much as I would see in any other game. Okay. So, and I think he'll be passing less. So I also think that Jesse James will be a downgrade because of how little Big Ben will have to throw.
I think it's pretty close to a coin flip. I think that I would safely predict that Jesse James, I think he's going to get more yards.
Fair.
But I do actually, I believe that Antonio Gates will catch a touchdown. I think his odds are greater than 50% of catching a touchdown.
What about Charles Clay? Jesse James or Charles Clay?
Charles Clay.
Charles Clay.
Me as well.
Oh, yeah.
But Antonio Gates is the better question. Yeah. I'd go Antonio Gates. Especially, it's upside safety again.
Yeah.
Antonio Gates, upside. Do you agree Jason James is maybe a bit safer than
Antonio
Gates?
Yes, that's exactly what I do. The yards as a tight end, I think he'll get like at least whatever, say 3 points minimum, whereas Gates could be shut out.
Okay, moving on. Next, I've got the Raiders at the Eagles. So Raiders are 6-8, and the Eagles are 12-2. So the tiebreak scenario for the Eagles with the Vikings and Saints is complicated in the NFC because the Eagles haven't played either team this year. So since they're not in the same division, the NFL tiebreak comes down to whichever team has more games within their conference. After lots of research, I found out the Saints cannot pass the Eagles, but the Vikings can. Okay, so the Eagles still can play, they're still playing for that top spot in the NFC. And the Raiders aren't mathematically eliminated, but they might as well be. Foles looked great last week, and Carr looked like a dumpster fire, but like one of those expensive dumpster fires, like a dumpster fire with $125 million in it. Kind of like the second most expensive dumpster fire in the NFL. Not sure what to expect in this game, but I do think you should be playing your Eagles. For me, I've got nobody locked and loaded for the Raiders, and for the Eagles, I've got Alshon Jeffrey and Zach Ertz. What do you guys feel?
Really, I've got two locked. I've got Marshawn Lynch and Michael Crabtree locked and loaded.
I couldn't disagree more on Marshawn Lynch. I kind of agree on Michael Crabtree.
I mean, Crabtree got 17 targets last game. I mean, 17 targets.
17.
Like I just
2 touchdowns.
It's like he got as little production in terms of yards as you could possibly get on that, but still got 2 touchdowns. I mean, even if you're say getting 12 to 15 targets, which is what he'll get, it's just the floor is so high on Michael Crabtree.
I think Crabtree's a must play in this situation. Marshawn Lynch, again, that is a tough one. Like, the front 7 of the Eagles have been playing well all year. I think that game last week, pardon me, against the Giants was, the Giants came out and played their offense to put up, I think, over 500 yards.
Yes, they did.
So I think the Eagles are going to have a bounce-back game. That's my assumption, is that they're going to have a bounce-back game. They got a little bit embarrassed last week. They're playing for the playoffs. I think they need to get their defense right for the playoffs, and this is where they start.
Okay, I do agree with you on Crabtree. You basically have to start him in almost all situations. But here's my take on Lynch. So I think they were leaning on him while they had playoff hopes. So this game's on a Monday. So they'll probably, almost definitely be mathematically eliminated by the Monday. So I think that they're going to start giving the ball more to their 24-year-olds and Jalen Richard and DeAndre Washington. And why not rest the old legs? If you're not going to make the playoffs anyway, like, why kill Marshawn Lynch, his legs? They were going to slow down his carries to under 20 at the beginning of the season, and we started to see that. They've only been wrapping up because I think they were trying to really push for the playoffs, and now that I think they're basically
and he's been very effective. His yards per carry has been very good.
Oh, I'm not saying he hasn't been great. I'm just saying the game script to me supports that he'll get less of the share of the offense this week, especially against a good Philly.
I don't agree with the second part where you're saying to rest him, because I don't think they care at all.
Oh, that's
probably
true.
Retire
again.
But
Jalen Richard,
I think it's a fair point to say that, like, they're more likely to go with more of a committee and maybe try to get more different kind of yards against a good run defense. That's a fair point.
It's a fair point. I kind of disagree. I just think, the Raiders, I think they're going to come out and try and win this game. Like, why wouldn't they, right? If they have nothing to play for.
Keep in mind, Jack Del Rio is definitely coaching for his job. So.
Yeah, Jack Del Rio is definitely playing for his job. Carr's been playing like crap all year, and I think they want to go out on a couple wins. And, for them to win this game, Marshawn's going to have to be involved, and that's just the bottom line. I think he's a safe play in terms of a floor. I wouldn't expect over 100 and like a touchdown. I'd say 80 flirting with one touchdown, 70 flirting with a touchdown.
Agree to disagree. I think he has a high ceiling. I wouldn't start him.
Fair.
Personally.
Who else?
Amari Cooper's supposed to maybe come back this week, but I don't think it should matter. I think it should be bench warmer no matter what.
I completely agree. He's so volatile. Ankle injuries are super risky in terms of he might not be 100%, even if he's 100%, he might come back and hurt it again.
Do not touch Amari Cooper.
Okay, move on from him because I think we all agree.
I just have a note here saying drop Jared Cook. I hate Jared Cook. Then
what? Number one tight end, seeming tight end in the league, bro.
He had 1 week in the top 5 in the last few, and
I think you should flip a coin to decide between getting a Blake Bortles or Jared Cook jersey.
Getting me one?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm getting. I'm looking actively for a Blake Bortles jersey.
Of course you have.
Pristine Auction's a great website. I've been looking on there for a signed one. I can't find one from Bortles.
So
I'm sure one.
Yeah, probably because no one's ever wanted to sign Blake Bortles jersey.
They will now. They will.
Got one for $5.
I mean, we're talking about it, but guess who's been the number 1 quarterback in fantasy over the last 3 weeks, boys? Statistically, it has been Blake Bortles. I'm not even lying to you. No picks. 7 touchdowns. He's been the number 1 fantasy quarterback over the last.
So what do you think about J.J.?
Nick Foles. Actually, I like. Okay, J.J. Let's do J.J. I actually really like this play. He's been consistently the best runner in Philly, whether or not he's gotten the work. But he's been, in terms of yards per carry, it's unreal. And then
great yards per carry.
And like I would have thought that they would have run the football more if they weren't losing so badly though. So like because they're losing so badly in that game early, they had to come back and Nick Foles was throwing the football more. I don't see any scenario where the Eagles are losing early this time. I think Nick Foles has finally figured out this offense. You could see that in the second half of that last game. And I think J.J. He's the best runner in that offense, and the Oakland Raiders are not a great run defense, so I think he's a great start.
Okay, I have to strongly disagree, and I disagreed with you last week, and I disagree with you again
he
about
had a good week last week. Like,
he had an okay last week. Ajay?
Ajay, yeah, he had a
12 carries for 49.
He also got involved in the passing game for 40 yards.
He got 40 receiving yards. You're right, but I just want to look at the carries. Okay, so J.J. 12, Blunt 7, Barnyard 2, Clement 4, and that just plays into exactly what I was talking about. I think they cycle these running backs through. They keep them all fresh. Ajay will get the bulk, but those other guys are going to eat in, and I think they're eating into his carries is going to greatly hamper his ceiling and even his floor a little bit. I think it's tough. I think it's a tough play.
I don't love him. I think there's situations where you could start him, but he hasn't topped double-digit points in the last 4 games. He's not getting many touches. I mean, relatively speaking, for a guy that you're starting as an RB2. I think the ceiling's always there because if he is running really well, he'll continue to get the ball. But I mean, like Darrian said, every week it's someone else is getting at least say 7 or 8 carries. If not last week, there was 3 different guys getting touches. So you can't safely start him.
Sure.
I don't love him. I don't hate him this week.
I do think his touchdown upside is lowered because of the Garrett Blunt.
Yes,
absolutely. I think Blunt does turn into their short yardage back when they really need that 1 yard.
But I do think I think he's safer than what you're saying, though. I think because of his yards per carry, I think because of the Philly offensive line, I think because of the Oakland defensive line, I think he's a lock for at least 12 carries. And I think he would have had more than 12 last week if they were winning.
No, that's fair.
So with his yards per carry, I think he won't crap your team. I think he'll get you a solid 80 yards combined at least, and with touchdown upside, right? So like 80 yards.
You say a solid 80 yards at least, yet he's only topped 80 yards once in like the last.
Both this week and last week. So
he had 80 total last week. Fair.
Right, and I think that's a trend, and I think that they should have run the ball more last week, and I think he would have gotten far more than 89 yards.
Keep in mind, the last 2 have been 2 very much plus matchups against the run.
And this is another one. This is anher very much plus matchup.
I mean, they're the 16th ranked. They're right in the middle of the league.
If I had to, okay, so I think he'll get 80 yards. So I mean, plus or minus 20. How about that?
Sure.
So like, he could get 100 though. Is my point. And he's got very much touch. He does have the upside. He could get a touchdown.
Like, I really don't see him hitting that 100 mark, but yeah. All right, we'll move on.
Fair. And then Nick Foles. So I love this stream. I think he's my number 2 quarterback stream, only behind Blake Bortles. Who Blake Bortles is now owned in over 50% of leagues because people are starting to realize that he's the fantasy goat, and goat greatest of all time. Not goat as in like
goat is a joke.
Goat.
Yeah.
Goat as in GOAT, greatest of all time kind of guy. So yeah, I like him. Monday Night Football. Can you imagine a Christmas present where you win your league with Nick Foles on a Monday on Christmas?
Quite amazing. That would be quite amazing.
University of Arizona product. That's all I'm saying.
All right, moving on from this matchup, I've got next the Vikings at Packers. So let's remember this is a Saturday night game in Green Bay, where it will be 15 degrees Fahrenheit is the projected forecast with snow. So with the Packers eliminated, Vikings playing for the top spot in the NFC, you'd think it would be simple, but I don't think it is because, Green Bay, they want to probably play spoiler. Sure, I think the Vikings will clean up on them, but the Packers will do everything they can to spoil a division's rival, but hey, with Rodgers on the IR and Hundley back in, what can they really do?
Yeah.
This is a complicated game for me because of the cold, right? So, because of the cold, I've got Latavius Murray locked and loaded 100%. I also have Kyle Rudolph locked and loaded.
Me too.
Adam Thielen close to locked and loaded because he gets a lot of short passes. I think he'll be okay in the snow. It's just the snow worries me for Case Keenum and just throwing in general.
Lock,
Yeah. Oh,
sorry. Lock in the running backs. I would be really hesitant about Jamal Williams this week.
me as well.
The Vikings defense is just absolutely ferocious right now. And he didn't really show up last week anyways. I think he had 30...
10 for 30.
Yeah, 30
And
total
and
yards.
I don't know how many times I have to say this. Like, I've watched the Packers a lot, and Aaron Jones is a way better running back than Jamal Williams. And it doesn't mean he's going to get more carries, but last week you saw he got like 3 carries for 47 yards.
He looked a lot more...
Some of that was passing yards.
Yeah. No, 3 carries for 47.
Yeah, the carries he broke one for sure.
And then also passing yards as well. But the point is just like when you've got a guy like Jamal Williams who we already aren't sure about. This any game could be the game where he gets less than half the carries, and especially after a 10 for 30 performance. I think you can't start Jamal Williams just for risk.
And just like the Green Bay team in general, with Aaron Rodgers going on the IR, they're playing for nothing. They are at home, so they have their fans kind of to prop them up a little bit. But I don't really...
Is that one of the most demoralized Green Bay's been in years? It's the first time they're playing a game that means nothing since
I know,
2008.
right? They have a diehard fan base. They'll show up. There's nothing else to do in Green Bay. But
Surely looking at the numbers, I'm with you guys. But the fact that it's going to be so cold, I'm kind of okay with Jamal Williams. Not only... I agree Aaron Jones gets more involved, but I do think Jamal Williams goes back to the
I don't
number
even
one
think
guy.
either of them get any production because of the defense that they're facing.
The combination of potentially splitting and going against Minnesota's run defense, I think it's...
We'll see. If there's like a foot of snow on the field, okay, then you might maybe play him because it is very hard to move. Defenders, it is hard to move quickly in the snow. Mm-hmm. If there's not that much snow and it's more cold and snowing, then I think there's nothing there for him. Absolutely nothing there.
Okay, if you had to flex a Packer, would you flex Devontae Adams or would you flex Jamal Williams?
Devontae Adams.
My worry there is Xavier Rhodes plus the cold plus Brett Hundley. That's an equation for
I know that, I see where you're coming from. I just think the matchup is more based for him to have a better game. I just think the Vikings' run defense is just too good.
Well,
it is
and the one nice thing is that it's a Saturday game, so you can wait right before the game, look at the weather, and make a call because you can make decisions before any other games are being played. But definitely look at the weather. Really don't just set your lineup and wait because how much snow could make a big difference.
Another little heads up. I know Dan said this a few times. If you're playing any of the Saturday players, put them into your lineups and not your flex to give you some flexibility on Sunday and Monday if you need to swap some guys in.
Can't agree more. And so the other side of the ball, I think we'd be doing a disservice if we didn't talk about Jerick McKinnon. So my usual argument is that Jerick McKinnon sees less snaps when the Vikings are winning, but that did not happen last week. Jerick McKinnon still got in to a lot of the snaps. He got 9 carries and 8 targets with 138 yards and a touchdown. To me, I don't know what to do here because with the cold they will be throwing less, but if they throw it all, it'll be
running back,
exactly. Yeah. So I don't hate Jerick McKinnon here too. I think he is startable. I think this whole Vikings offense is going to score points. I just don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
Right. That's my whole problem. Is I don't know if it's Latavius. I don't know if it's Jerick. I don't know if it's all Kyle Rudolph. I don't know if it's all Adam Thielen. I don't know if Stefan Diggs gets in there and steals a 60-yard bomb. I don't know.
I think in terms of McKinnon, he has a very safe floor because of his passing role. He's going to get those targets out the backfield. He's going to get those third down snaps. And especially, like you were alluding to with the weather, and say they're 3rd and 4 a lot from running the ball 1st and 10, McKinnon's out there and he's going to catch, 5, 6, 7 passes. So he's got a very safe floor. I would be worried about the other side, Murray. I would be worried about Latavius Murray
taking over the game.
Either, maybe not even producing that much.
Oh, really?
You're
worried about Latavius
I
Murray's
like
production.
Latavius in the cold weather, just plowing through. I like him a lot.
I like him a lot,
I'm just kind of worried. I like McKinnon's playmaking ability. I think they do try and split the touches. So
I just think Latavius Murray game script plus cold weather. Like I think they'll be up, so they'll just be trying to kill the clock. And the fact that it's cold weather, I think they'll go with their running back, running back more.
Yeah, I think if I have Latavius Murray or Kyle Rudolph, I'm happy with this game. Everyone else, I'm like, ugh. I mean, I'm starting Adam Thielen for sure.
But
I'm not happy.
Start,
But my point is, everyone else, like Adam Thielen, I'm still starting, and everyone else, I'm just like, oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Fair. No,
so it's a weird game.
Fair.
It's a very weird game.
Stefan Diggs had a decent amount of targets, but not in the cold, I don't think.
Diggs is a tough play regardless.
Yeah, I agree. All right, moving on. Next game, I've got the Buccaneers at Panthers. So Buccaneers are 4-10. The Panthers are 10-4. Panthers are playing for the division, and the Bucs are the Bucs. So I think the Panthers are at home, and I think they destroy the Bucs, and I don't think this will be even close. Panthers are 10-point favorites, and I'd bet the Panthers to cover that spread personally. Buccaneers. Okay, so Panthers locked and loaded. I've got Cam Newton, Christian McCaffrey, Greg Olsen, Devin Funchess. I think the whole bunch.
Ooh, you put Devin Funchess in there.
And Buccaneers, I've got Mike Smith locked and loaded, and here's why. Because I think that with OJ Howard recently,
who locked and loaded?
I've got Mike Evans locked and loaded. Sorry. Because there's a report out that OJ Howard might have to be placed on the IR, and if Deshaun Jackson doesn't play, I think that there's a very strong narrative that Jameis Winston hyper targets Mike Evans just like he did last year, and I think that's the reason Mike Evans hasn't had the greatest of numbers this year, is because they've had so many different weapons to go to.
Yeah.
So I think with Mike Evans funneling back in the targets, we kind of saw it at the end of last game. Sure, if he didn't catch that one bomb, he wouldn't have had that great of a night, but he also had another bomb called back because of offensive pass interference, as well as a 27-yard catch that was called back because of pass interference as well. So he could have had a great game if he just stopped pushing off. I think if he's hyper targeted, Mike Evans is 100% locked and loaded, the same guy you almost saw last season, and I think the Bucs will be throwing a lot. I'm very confident in Mike Evans this week.
Okay, I'm not quite as confident as you, but regardless of that, you're starting him no matter what. Yeah. So, I mean, I agree that you're starting him. 100%.
I would agree that you're starting him, but yeah, I don't think he's definitely not the player that he was last year in terms of production per game, even making the plays that he was making last year.
But he could be a monster.
But this Carolina defense is very good. It is a very quality defense, and if this game goes south quickly, I almost feel them like Tampa Bay wise, like they're gonna Carolina will just double cover Mike Evans and make someone else beat them.
Fair.
And then who do they have? They don't have much else, right? So yeah, he's a must play, but he's not going to be like last year.
How do you feel about the Tampa Bay running situation?
I don't like starting
untouchable.
Well, I mean, Martin, you obviously know he was inactive last week.
This is one of the best run defenses of the whole league all year. Yeah. I think they're untouchable.
And especially if Doug Martin comes back, we're in a timeshare.
What do you think? What do we think of Devin Funchess?
You know,
you put him as 100%. I definitely don't have him there.
He had a rough game last week.
I think it's a bit different. Like
one catch.
Yes, but it's the Bucs.
In a plus matchup against Green Bay, he had one catch.
The other concern is like when you said they're a 10-point favorite, you're taking Carolina. I have the same kind of feeling of like they might murder them in this game. Fair. And then just like. And then the only receiving guy I like is Greg Olsen on just some like.
And Tampa Bay is the number one giving up to points to receivers. And when they played last time, Funchess had 2 catches for 11 yards. Mind you, Kelvin Benjamin was on the team, but Funchess only had 2 for 11.
Yeah, I still think you're probably starting Funchess this week, but I don't have him as locked and loaded.
And he did when he dropped that touchdown pass last week. It definitely looked like he re-aggravated that shoulder injury he's been playing with all year.
I just think based on his production, without Kelvin Benjamin in that offense and the matchup.
Okay, how about this? Funchess or Robbie Anderson?
Funchess, 100%.
Robbie Anderson.
There he is. So he's on the line. He's around that line.
That's not even close in my brain. I think it's Devin Funchess all day long. Okay, and Jonathan Stewart. How do we feel about Jonathan Stewart in this game? Like last week, he only
last week was a plus matchup for him.
It's touchdown or bust for him. For the most
didn't
part.
do much.
My take on Jonathan Stewart is that he is the running back, the same way that Latavius Murray was, and I think if they get up huge in this game, which they should, I think Jonathan Stewart might be able to take over.
They gave McCaffrey more carries than him last week.
That was my thought.
But they weren't huge up on the Packers.
But
that was close.
But that was also my thought. Was like the whole idea. That was my first thought. Was like, oh, if they get up, they'll give the ball a bunch. But I'm thinking, no. They're looking towards the playoffs, and McCaffrey's a rookie who can run the ball and has energy.
So why not rest him?
What?
So why not rest him? Make sure he's fresh.
Because my point with Jonathan Stewart is like.
Oh, I'm talking about McCaffrey.
You know, I think the opposite. I don't think you need to worry about him being fresh. He's a kid.
Fair.
Jonathan Stewart is old,
bags.
and you've seen them try to rest him. They give him practice days off, and I think they do not want to only have McCaffrey as their only healthy back.
He did not look good last week. 11 carries, 27 yards.
So that's what, I have the opposite opinion. I think that if they get up, they try to not give Stewart the ball at all, and so that's my concern. I think you're purely going touchdown dependent on him. And that's why I wouldn't start him.
He definitely has touchdown upside. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't start him. What about Greg Olsen?
I think
no
locked and loaded.
That's not even an option.
What, 117 yards and a touchdown last week?
He was a
I had him on
monster.
my bench.
Say if you
but
have
I still won. So
if your league allows tight end and flex positions, would you start Olsen or Funchess?
Olsen.
I'm not happy about it, but
Yeah, 12 targets to 4.
I do
for
want to
Olsen
note
last week.
Tampa Bay has decent numbers against the tight end, but I don't think that's because they're good against the tight end. I think that's because you can get it done with anyone else.
Yeah.
So they've never needed to get it done with the tight end.
I was actually looking at that, what you're talking about in terms of Tampa Bay versus tight ends, and they haven't played any good tight ends. That's kind of what plays into them not giving up tight end points, is they haven't played any good tight ends.
And why throw it to the tight end if you can just run it in, or you can just throw it to a wide receiver?
Right.
Cameron Brate's the only other guy I want to talk about, so I don't mind it if O.J. Howard misses. And
if O.J. Howard's gone, I think he's a pretty good streamer. It's just that when he's healthy, you're seeing that you just don't know where the targets are going.
O.J. Howard almost certainly missed. They're even talking about having him maybe having to go onto the IR.
Oh, okay.
So and to me, it's like, especially what you're saying, if Mike Evans gets shut down, Cameron Brate becomes like the only other option if Deshaun Jackson doesn't play.
Yeah.
So I mean, Deshaun Jackson changes the offense a lot for me. If he doesn't play, I like Mike Evans a lot more, and I like Cameron Brate a lot more. With Deshaun Jackson, I like that whole offense a lot less because it'll be spread out.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
All right, next we got the Browns at the Bears. So the Browns are 0-14.
That is disgusting.
But there are things to talk about. Not a lot, so it won't take too long. But this is another snow game. So it's projected to be 30 degrees in Chicago. So it's projected to snow. Game script I got here is that the Browns probably don't want to go winless. I see them putting up a good effort in this game, but it's Deshaun Kaiser, and the Bears' defense has been okay. To me, locked and loaded, all that I have is Jordan Howard and Chicago defense because it's cold. I don't have Josh Gordon locked and loaded because I don't like the factors of Deshaun Kaiser. I don't like the factors of the Chicago defense, and I don't like the cold.
No. Yeah, no, I don't have locked and loaded. I think in most situations you're still probably starting him for the upside, but I definitely don't have locked and loaded.
My friend isn't.
Yeah.
My friend is choosing to. My friend has got 3 wide receivers in max. He's got AJ Green in. He's got Keelan Cole in, and he's trying to decide between Mike Wallace and Josh Gordon, which we'll get to Mike Wallace in just a second. We'll get to Keelan Cole as well. My friend's he can't sleep again this week because he's in the championship. But
your friend's not very good at sleeping.
I know. But what about Isaiah Crowell? It's going to be a cold game. He could have a big game, but I think he'll be in a timeshare. What do you think about Crowell?
Well, I don't think it's so much of a timeshare as much as it's first and second down to third down. Duke Johnson doesn't really get carries for the most part. Yeah. So and just speaking in terms of the fact that the nice thing is that you're always worried with Crowell that he's not going to get carries because they're getting blown out. Mm-hmm. Chicago doesn't score points.
Yep.
So and with the snow, I like Crowell as a start this week.
It's going to be a dirty game. I think Crowell is a must play.
Gonna get greasy
It's going to be a greasy game.
And I don't mind Duke Johnson Jr. either, actually. I think this is a weird game where both of them might be okay because I don't think that Deshaun Kaiser will be able to throw the ball to anyone.
Yeah, I like Crowell a lot more, but
me too. Me too.
I mean, I'd try to stay away from Duke Johnson, but I think there are worse plays.
And looking on the other side, watch out for Adam Shaheen's health. So if he's healthy, I think this is a great play. The Cleveland Browns are liquid garbage against the tight end. So, I meant to talk about this last week, but I didn't. I skipped over Ben Watson. I streamed Ben Watson in one of my leagues, and he did fantastic. So here's the tight ends that have gotten touchdowns against the Cleveland Browns this year. Tyler Kroft has 3. Jesse James has 2. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Kyle Rudolph, Eric Ebron, Mercedes Lewis, and Ben Watson. And now soon to be Adam Shaheen is what I'm calling.
Interesting.
Because Adam Shaheen and Jimmy Garoppolo, Adam Shaheen and Mitchell Trubisky have had, they've had a connection. And I think this will be the number 1 target, especially in a snow game. It'll be short passes. I'm calling it right now. If Adam Shaheen plays, Adam Shaheen gets a touchdown. Put that on the board. I love this play. So, yeah, you guys are taking a selfie over there. I don't know what's going on, but I'd love to see that selfie later.
It's great.
Maybe not. I don't know. George's face looked weird.
I have no notes on Shaheen, so I'm going to take your word for it on this one.
He's been getting a lot of targets when he's healthy. He missed last week, but the bigger note to me is everyone gets it done against Cleveland. every tight end gets it done because they're actually decent run defense and a decent wide receiver defense. So how are they 0-14? The answer, the tight end. They just get ripped up the middle. The tight end just destroys them every single week.
I think there are
Doesn't
a few
matter
more
who you
answers,
are.
but sure.
I'd say
Okay.
there's a few
There's a
more
lot.
answers.
Okay, they're
yeah.
offensive.
Starting with
I don't
Deshaun
think they're 0-14 because of tight ends, but yeah,
Fair,
it's definitely
fair,
a part
fair.
of it.
Okay.
Do any of you guys listen to any of the Ringer podcasts?
No.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, they nicknamed him on there. They nicknamed him Kaiser Soso, which I think is one of the
Kaiser
greatest
Soso.
nicknames
That's
of all
awesome.
time.
That's a
I
good
love
one.
that. Okay, moving on. Unless there's anything else, I'm going to talk about Browns and Bears.
No, thank you.
Next game, Lions at Bengals. So here the Red Ranger has morphed into the Bench Ranger, being replaced by A.J. McCarron for the last 2 straight weeks after throwing 113, 2 picks, and no passing touchdowns last week.
Dumpster fire.
Maybe they shouldn't even start him. I haven't seen any reports saying that McCarron will start, but why would they go back to Andy Dalton? I don't see why they would, but if they do, I don't like this entire offense. The Red Ranger has just been awful, and I know Red Rifle is what you call him. I like Red
Rifle
Ranger
BB gun.
because he morphs into a garbage player all the
It's a
time.
Red Rifle BB gun.
Wasn't it only like 4 years ago he was a top 5 fantasy quarterback? Like,
I think it was
1 year.
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
I don't know.
2 years ago.
I think it was 2013.
2014, I believe,
Maybe.
with
Yeah.
with Hugh Jackson.
Either way, it was not that long ago, and I don't know what's going on with this guy. He's morphed into a piece of garbage. Locked and loaded, I've got Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, and a hesitant AJ Green.
What do we feel about Joe Mixon? He's fully back from his concussion, practicing in full this week.
If he plays, I start neither Mixon or Bernard personally, because I think it'll
It's
be
a
tempting.
decent matchup against Detroit's run defense.
Yeah, but actually, Detroit. I don't think Detroit's been that bad. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I don't think they've been that bad against the run lately, have they?
They're
Like,
middle of
maybe-
the road.
Maybe, yeah.
I do think you're probably starting Joe Mixon with him
Oh,
coming back
whoa,
healthy.
whoa.
But
Let me take that back. They've given up third most
Really?
points to running backs
Over the season, right?
over the season.
I still think it'll be a timeshare, and I just don't like this entire offense. So I wouldn't start Mixon because I just don't see a lot of points on the board. So I don't think it'll be. I think Gio Bernard is almost a. Well, Gio Bernard's a good play if Mixon doesn't play.
He's been playing well the past 2 weeks.
has,
That Mixon hasn't played.
But there hasn't been a lot of yards on the board for the running back, and now you split them between Mixon and Bernard. I don't love it.
yeah,
Mixon's got that high ceiling but a very, very low floor. Let's put it that way.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. Okay. How about Matt Stafford? He was close to a lock and load for me.
yeah, I like Matt Stafford.
You
I
don't
like him
have
too.
many options aside from Blake Bortles, so I'll play him.
If you got Matt Stafford, I think you're probably playing him.
I think it again. Is
He's
what
a
you
steady
need.
17 points. guy.
Yeah, I think it'll be a safe one again. The upside though for Nick Foles and Blake Bortles to me is higher. But you know what? No, Stafford's got a huge upside. I think it'll be a safe 17 points.
Any consideration on Theo Riddick?
Yes. Actually, not really. Not if
No,
Abdullah's
I
in
don't
again.
think so.
No, not if it's a 3-headed monster.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so.
As much as I think he's a good talent, I don't think it's good. Eric Ebron, I don't mind as a play. So he's been good lately. I mean, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. Could be. And my worries with AJ Green is simply because Darius Slay and the game's being played on Christmas Eve, and anybody with the last name of Slay is bound to have a good Christmas game.
And he's been killing it the past 2 weeks. I think he has 3 interceptions.
He's leading the league now. I think.
He got Defensive Player of the Week last week. He's been
Should have been Aaron Donald, but sure.
and he just got named to the Pro Bowl corner list with that very prestigious group. I think he keeps it rolling. I think he's
For the
very
record,
tough.
again, it should have been Aaron Donald last week, but I'll just
It's
My-
a tough play.
My friend is somehow in the finals with AJ Green, even though AJ Green's been garbage in the
Garbage.
playoffs. But my friend wants to bench him. My friend can't
But
do
you
it.
can't. You can't.
Yeah, if AJ McCarron plays, I actually like his chances of being good better. But if Andy Dalton plays, then my friend's gonna be very stressed. All right, moving on to the Jaguars at the 49ers. The Jaguars are 10-6 and fighting for a bye over in the AFC. And they're playing against the 49ers, who are 4-10. So game script notes, I've got the words Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles, bringing my friend, to a championship game in my 14-person league. Whoever would have thought that we'd say this? Maybe
fucking hate
maybe
you,
6
Dan.
weeks ago, Daniel
I'm
Mountain
proud
said
of him.
this.
I'm proud of him.
So, Jimmy G's been good, but come on, he hasn't had a test like Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye yet. No one's gotten it done against the Jags, and I don't see Jimmy G being the first one
Yeah,
to do
it makes
so.
me really upset because if it was any other matchup, I'd be all in on the
Me
Jimmy
too.
G train this week, but it's too tough.
It is
I'm
way too
really
tough.
starting to hate Jimmy G, though, because I'm a Rams fan, and I do not need him in my division, and he is incredible. I was watching the Pittsburgh New England game last week, and I was like trying to flip over watching him going against to try to get the winning drive against Tennessee. I was just like, oh my god, he's so good.
Yeah,
I say I want
back, and his releases. He just finds his man, and his releases so quick.
His movement in the pocket, he doesn't get touched. He's very, very, very.
He's going to be a top 5 quarterback in the league.
I say that I won my matchup because of Blake Bortles, but really it was Robbie Gould. I'm not going to lie to you. It was 100% Robbie Gould last week, and Jimmy Garoppolo's ability to get into the.
I would drop Robbie Gould this week. I don't see much for him against the Jags.
I don't hate Robbie Gould. I mean, I think Jimmy Garoppolo's good enough to get into maybe scoring position.
I just don't see any of these weapons being able to do anything against this defense. I think
it's
Goodwin's been playing really well, but what is Goodwin going to do against AJ Boye and Jalen Ramsey? What is Carlos Hyde going to do against this front seven?
Yeah.
I think they have a really
just betting on Jimmy G to beat
really tough
defense.
time. I think the tight ends on the Niners might have a big game. I think of all the weapons,
Garrett Selleck
will be Selleck and Kittle.
Yep.
Because I just think that the wide receivers will absolutely be shut down, and they're going to key on Carlos Hyde. So I think the tight ends might have a play, but I would not play them with any type of confidence.
Yeah, I would hesitantly start Carlos Hyde, but I think you got to start him just because of his consistency. But I want to talk about the Jaguars side of the ball. So locked and loaded, I've got Fournette and the Jacksonville defense because it's their defense. But I mean,
you don't lock and load Blake Bortles. Let's go.
That's my point. I didn't lock and load Blake Bortles because he's a high ceiling play. I do recognize that there is some risk there, right? Like I think that
third most quarterback get points. San Francisco.
Over the last 3 weeks, he's been the number 1 quarterback. He's been insane the last 3 weeks. He's been liquid fire. I don't know why I keep saying liquid.
Do you start Tom Brady versus Buffalo when he put up 8 points last time against Buffalo, or do you play Blake Bortles against San Fran?
I mean, anytime you bench Tom Brady, he puts up big numbers. Right? Okay, all I'm saying is Tom Brady's safer play. Blake Bortles is the ultimate ceiling play, so I don't think he's locked and loaded because he's ceiling, but he also has that floor. He is still Blake Bortles, right? He hasn't thrown a pick, or he's only thrown 1 pick in the last 8 weeks. I looked at that. That's pick.
Not very Blake Bortles like.
Maybe he's due. That's my point. I don't know. I think he's fine. I'm starting with confidence. Great ceiling play.
I think the test for me that he passed was the Seattle game.
Yeah.
He was able to escape the Seattle game with 18.5 points, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns.
And he got it done against Seattle. And by the way, quarterbacks from last week, listen to this top 12. Cam Newton, Eli Manning, Jameis Winston, Nick Foles, Brock Osweiler, Blake Bortles, Tyrod Taylor, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco, Case Keenum, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Alex Smith.
That's a wild list.
Wild.
So my point is, when you're drafting, I cannot invest into a quarterback because then you miss out on the ability to play these, really high-end guys. Because otherwise you get married to a Tom Brady who puts up 2 bad weeks in the playoffs. You get married to a guy like Drew Brees. You can't stream a guy like Blake Bortles. You can't stream a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, even though people are recommending it. Even though you feel like you should do it, you get married to these guys that you draft in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round. And all of these guys that is listed besides Cam Newton could have been found on the waiver wire, including Aaron Rodgers because he was probably dropped. All of those guys were waiver wire pickups that could have potentially been a waiver wire pickup for your league.
That's not true. I drafted Brock Osweiler in the 3rd round.
Makes sense.
Anybody who started Brock Osweiler last week, please just quit fantasy football.
Why? That was an amazing play.
Yeah, a backup quarterback who's named Brock Osweiler.
Great play.
All right,
kudos to you if you played on.
2 guys on the Jaguars I want to talk about: D.D. Westbrook and Keelan Cole. So my buddy is trying to figure out if he should start Westbrook or Cole. Currently he has Keelan Cole because he wants to stay in those flames. So Keelan Cole, 3 straight weeks with touchdowns. And honestly, it depends on Allen Hurns for me, but if Marquise Lee is out and Allen Hurns is out...
Is it Marquise Lee out?
I believe Marquise Lee is out, but it's Allen Hurns. Yeah, I think they're both questionable.
They say hopefully he's back for playoffs, so you never know what's happening with these stupid injury reports, but yeah, I'd expect he's out.
I think both these guys are playable. It's just the question of which one is the better play, D.D. Westbrook or Keelan Cole.
Well, you gotta ride the hot wave, right? That's what's the point of looking at the previous stats, the targets and the touchdowns, and then going against it. And D.D. has looked great, so I think both of them are playable, very playable. Cole's got that ginormous ceiling.
Yeah. So I think they're both playable. The only other person I want to talk about in this matchup is Garrett Selleck, and Jimmy Garoppolo seemed to have a good rapport with him, and I think if he's shut down on the outside by AJ Bouye and Jalen Ramsey, Garrett Selleck might have a good game.
Yeah,
Moving on,
and Kittle too, right? So both of them, I think they're on an equal plane. Both of them are equal plane. They split snaps, they split split snaps and they split targets.
I just give the edge a bit to Steelix just based on last few weeks.
Fair.
And then we got to move quick because I just realized how bad we are on time.
Yep.
We got Giants and Cardinals. Game script here, I've got who cares? They probably don't. Locked and loaded, we've got Evan Ingram and Larry Fitz.
Yep, that's it.
And I really like Larry Fitz this week, actually, because I think Giants give up a lot of points up the middle.
Yep.
So I really like him. I wouldn't be that worried. I like Ricky Seals-Jones for the same arguments I made about the Giants tight ends that I did for Jared Cook.
Yep.
I mean,
Definitely streamable.
I think Kerwin Williams is safe. Sterling Shepard's a high upside play, but I don't think the Giants have any chance of repeating what they did last week in terms of offense. But I think Shepard's a good upside play, but I think he gets Patrick Peterson, so I don't love him.
He doesn't get Patrick Peterson this week.
He won't?
No, he plays in the slot, so he will be operating out of there. I would be hesitant to play him in terms of a high upside again. Like, that's the only big game he's had probably in his career like that. I think the floor is safe with him. About 50 yards, 5 to 7 catches, 50, 80 yards.
But
so
the other thing, just like looking through this week, I feel like the last couple of weeks we found that like there were much stronger debates in terms of the waiver wire receiver guys. There've been much better plays, but this week it doesn't seem like there's as many really good plays on guys that you can pick up. So I think in a different week you might say play like Marquise Goodwin over Sterling Shepard. But this week I think if you have Sterling Shepard, you're probably
gonna play. Like going back to who we've been comparing all day. I think Sterling Shepard is above for me. Cup. Bryant.
Me too.
I think he's above Cup,
Bryant.
Brian Anderson.
I take Brian Anderson.
I take Bryant. I think.
But he's
above,
in that ballpark.
Yeah.
He's in the ballpark
I like
with
Brian
those guys.
Anderson over him.
Yeah.
Bryant over Shepard, Shepard over Anderson to me.
Okay.
Orleans Darkwa, don't touch him. In my opinion.
You're not touching. Gallman's probably gonna get more touches. You're not touching either of
got
those.
him next,
That's a tough play.
Darkwa had 9 carries for 7 yards. If he didn't get that touchdown, he was garbage. Wayne Gallman, I've been hearing a lot of hype. I personally don't really get it. I mean, he's been okay passing in the game.
He's just a young guy, straight line guy, a bit on the smaller side, more elusive than power. He's just a guy that is there right now.
To me, you can't trust him.
I like him at Clemson.
He's not the future.
But I wouldn't trust him I wouldn't trust him for the fantasy Super
No,
Bowl.
definitely not. But I do like Kerwin Williams this week. I think he's
safe.
He's a nice flex play, I think.
Safe, and if he misses Elijah Penny, I think it's a good play too because it's the Giants' run defense, and I think Arizona gets up in this game, and I think they might try to kill the clock. So yeah, Elijah Penny, if Kerwin Williams sits out, super deep sleeper.
Personally, I don't think they'll be getting up on them. I think it'll be a dogfight for the whole game.
You're a little biased. Giants fan.
Is he going to go for 434 again this week?
It'll be like last week when we played the Eagles. It was a good game.
Yeah, I don't think the Giants can repeat that, but if they do, hey, who knows? You don't bet against Eli Manning.
What else we got?
I got Broncos at Redskins next. Game script here, I've got, again, who cares? Broncos locked and loaded. I've got C.J. Anderson Welp. He's the only locked and loaded player I have in this entire game.
Yep.
But there's a lot to talk about here, though.
Yep.
So C.J. Anderson, he's been frustrating to own. You probably sat him last week. If you didn't, good on you.
Probably got so angry.
And you probably got super mad. Like he had
30 carries.
30 carries.
Yards.
Yep.
Oh, great. And he has been getting a lot more work in that offense lately, and I think he's a talented.
It's been the last 3 weeks where he's kind of retaken the backfield as the lead guy. And yeah, and the 30 carries is nothing to worry about because he got 10 days rest. I think they're definitely just going to lean on him again this week. He's an easy start. But then looking at the receivers, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, what do you guys think?
I wouldn't. Nope.
It's tough.
Me too.
That's a tough play. Osweiler did show up last week, but what are the odds of him repeating that performance?
I think especially not Demaryius Thomas.
Especially not Demaryius Thomas.
Get Josh Norman.
He's going to get Josh Norman.
Yeah,
exactly.
so I don't like either of those. So then what about, where would you go Kirk Cousins compared to, say, Blake Bortles and Nick Foles, Daniel?
Not touchable.
Neither of them. I would start Cousins over neither of those guys. And I don't even think, I would even say Kirk Cousins is safer, but I don't think he's safer.
This offense is just torpedoing. It is trending completely the wrong direction.
I agree.
And I must say it started with that Chargers game when I said they were going to get shit on, and they did.
Yeah, I think it'll be a low floor for him. I think he's got a low floor and a low ceiling, so I don't see playing him.
I agree. Yeah. I also don't know. P. Ryan's kind of fallen off the map ever since the big game that you called, which you did call, but since then he's kind of.
It's tough.
I've been upset with P. Ryan because I thought it would be long term.
And this is a tough matchup. Denver has given up some points this year. But in this matchup particularly, I don't see the offensive line doing well against this.
The starting running back with that kind of volume is always startable in my opinion, but I don't
He
think
hasn't
they'll
been
do
getting that much volume recently.
I mean, they haven't been running the ball very much because
That's the point.
Their
That's the
offense has
point.
been so terrible.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
I do think he's a better start this week than the last couple because I think that Denver's offense is so bad that they won't be trailing the whole game and it'll just be a terrible game and it'll be no fun for anyone.
I feel like this is a stinker teens like 12-14 win.
Startable, I've got Jamison Crowder and Vernon Davis though because I think the Broncos are really bad up the middle. Right?
Yep.
So like I would start either of those guys. Vernon Davis less than Jamison Crowder, but I've got quite a bit of confidence in Crowder this week.
Yeah, I'm starting Crowder over Didi this week.
Fair.
Fair. I think he's a safer play there. So yeah, I like both those guys. Redskins defense, Osweiler, enough said. I would start them, and then Josh Doxson I would sit.
Yeah, no.
He'll get those skilled corners over in Denver. Okay, so I got last game here is the Colts at Ravens. So
Great game to end off with. Love this game.
Game script is the Ravens need this
So
game.
happy this is going to be on its own on a Saturday. Get to watch it. Awesome.
But hey, I mean the Ravens do need this game to stay in the AFC race, right? So like,
I'm not. I don't even think the Ravens are that bad, but they're
Yeah.
maybe the least fun team to watch that's ever
Fair.
been good in NFL history.
Well, let's give Alex Collins some credit here. Let's
Yeah.
give Alex Collins some credit. He's been pretty fun to watch the past couple of weeks.
the only locked and load player I have is Alex Collins. So yeah, and I've got the Baltimore defense is locked and loaded,
Yes.
but not a player, right? Like
I wouldn't touch anyone on Indy. I would not start any of them.
maybe Jack Doyle.
I would not even touch Jack Doyle.
Ravens been pretty good against the tight end. I would Direct L's okay. I wouldn't do it. Frank Gore is safe. To me, he's safe.
To me, he's not safe. I think his floor is dropped tremendously by this Baltimore Ravens defense.
he does not get less than like 50 yards like almost all season. I know there's been a game where he had like 30 something.
Do you want to start a 5-point running back?
I don't want to start Frank Gore any week.
Your championship.
I think. Yeah.
I mean, it's just like I just think that you say his floor is low, but like he has the lowest ceiling in the history of like guys that you start.
Fair,
like
fair.
he's getting minimum 50. You're right, but he's getting max 70.
Yeah.
Like
if you're a mad
And
favorite,
is he getting
how could
50
you be if
in
you have
this
Frank Gore,
matchup?
but-
Is he getting 50 in this
that's
matchup,
a
which
good
is
point.
tough?
You're right.
it's just like start anyone. Get Kerwin Williams. Get
Yeah.
Start Gio Bernardi. Like get
I
anyone.
would start
I don't
Gio
care.
Bernard. I would.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
starting anyone over him.
That's fair. Don't start any Colts. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But on the Ravens side of the ball, I think Flacco is playable. And I don't like him necessarily over the other streamers we've talked about. But hey, if you're in a deeper league where Bortles is
Two
gone,
quarterback league.
Foles is
Yeah,
gone,
two quarterback
right?
league.
Tyrod's gone. Flacco, I think he's been good. You know, like he has been good lately. He's figured out this offense, and Mike Wallace has a lot of upside here.
Yeah, Wallace has got 3 straight weeks with targets, yards. Like
I think it all stems with Alex Collins. He has jump-started this offense. It starts with the run,
Yeah.
it goes to play action, and then it goes to the deep shots. And I think if Collins has been rolling like he has, Wallace has got to play.
though.
I wouldn't say he's a must start. I wouldn't say anything like that. But he's
let's put him in the
he's
conversation.
in that conversation with all
where
those
do you put him?
guys.
Where do we like him in the Cooper
I'd
Kupp
like him.
conversation?
I'd like him over Cup.
Me too.
Me too.
I am starting him over a lot of guys actually, and I'm very worried about it. Like,
It's a tough one.
I'm
It
starting
is,
over
it is.
Didi. I'm starting him over.
I started him over
I'd
Didi.
say he's under Woods, Bryant,
Yes.
Sterling, Shepard.
Yeah.
I'd say he's
Yep.
right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in agreement on that. Then.
And his normal critique is that he's a touchdown dependent guy. Not the last 3 weeks.
Nope.
He's
No,
been
he
getting the
hasn't.
yards and not the touchdowns.
Yeah.
So if he suddenly breaks out for a bomb against the Colts, which is
Yeah.
he could have a huge game.
Definitely a lot of upside with Michael.
Lots of upside, and the corners on the Colts are absolutely horrible.
I
They
know
got
they are.
they got Quincy Wilson, a rookie from Florida. He's big, but he's slow. It's a good matchup for a speedy guy.
All right, I think.
And while you guys are a little bit more okay with Flacco, I think unless you're in a 2 quarterback league, I don't think there's any way you're starting this week still.
It's a tough play.
I think he's okay.
Yeah.
Especially against the Colts. I think.
Yeah,
he's
that's
okay.
also agree to disagree because just.
But yeah, I think that's everything for this week. So next week we are still going to record something because we're going to have a lot of pain to talk about. Maybe we'll discuss a bit of the fantasy playoffs. Maybe we'll give some week 17 tips if your league is stupid and you play in week 17.
Maybe some keeper tips on who to keep.
Absolutely, yeah. Love that idea. So yeah, we'll get something out to you next week. One of us is going to be in pain, a lot of pain.
A lot of pain.
So tune in for that.
Physical, emotional, spiritual pain.
It's gonna be real bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, thank you for listening to us.
Good luck in the finals.
Good luck in the finals. Yeah, thank you all.
See you guys.